Go guys.
Okay na, Day?
All.
Okay, mag-start na ko. Good morning, everyone. We are the Group 6 and we discuss about genetical or GMO. Next slide, Day. So, genetically modified. So, ang GMO is organism is gi-alter. So, alter, it means gamit ang genetic engineering techniques. So, this alteration laboratory specific desired trait, desired biological process. Also, gigamit sa as source of medicines, modified foods, widely used in scientific research and sa pag-produce of other foods. GMOs can infect animals and microorganisms. Actually, nanay mga animal, plant, and human. Genetically modified house that was produced in 1981. Ang first genetically modified plant produced in 1983. Ang genetically modified human born on July 21, 1997. And based sa akong research, ang kaning first nga kanang na modified nga human is twins siya. And their names are Lala and Lulu and Dana, pero dili ko sure kung mao ba to sila. So, ang kining GMO, next slide, Day. Paliw ko next slide ba? Thank you. So, ang kining GMO have wide arrays of applications in different fields of biology, such as in human gene therapy, transgenic plants, producing food quality traits, research use, and microbes and mammals. Next slide, Day. Human gene therapy. So, human gene therapy is a collection of methods that allows correction of a gene defect that has been diagnosed in a child or embryo. So, ang human gene therapy daw is usa ni siya ka collection of methods nga mo-allow sa correction of a gene defect that has been diagnosed in a child or embryo. It aims to correct genetic defects by introducing healthy genes to the patient's body. This can be done by various methods, such as replacing faulty genes with functional ones, repairing mutations in the existing genes, or modifying gene expression. So diri, ang genes is i-insert siya into a person's cell and tissues para mo treat or mo prevent of diseases through the introduction, removal, or alteration of genetic material. So in correction sa genetic defect, it involves delivery of a normal gene into the individual or embryo para i-take over ang function and compensate for the non-functional gene. The process of gene therapy typically involves identifying the specific faulty gene responsible for a particular condition, designing a therapeutic gene to replace and correct it, and delivering the healthy gene into the patient's cell. This can be done using various delivery methods such as viral vectors or gene editing techniques. So, kining gene therapy has shown promise in treating a range of genetic disorders, including inherited diseases like cystic fibrosis, muscular dystrophy, and sickle cell anemia. Next slide, Dai. Next is genetically modified crops. So, kaning genetically modified crops are plants used in agriculture, the DNA of which has been modified using genetic engineering techniques. So as what I said kanang kuan ni siya crops gani, so related siya sa agriculture. So ang DNA nila is modified or naa sila minor changes sa plants to improve gamit ang genetic engineering techniques. In most cases, ang aim ani is to introduce a new trait to the plant in which dili siya naturally gyud mo occur in the species, or dili gyud siya naturally present nga makita nato sa species sa certain nga plant. So ang process ani of genetically modifying crops involves isolating and manipulating specific genes from one organism, such as a bacterium or another plant species, and inserting them into the target crop's genome. This allows scientists to introduce desired traits such as resistance to pests, diseases, or environmental stresses, increased nutritional content, improved shelf life, or enhanced crop yield. So ang kaning genetically modified crops have been developed para i-address ang various agricultural challenges such as sa pag-reduce sa need for chemical pesticides, increasing crop productivity, improving nutritional quality, and sa pag-enhance sa overall crop sustainability. So some of the examples of food crops includes resistance to certain pests, diseases, or environmental conditions, reducing to spoilage or resistance of chemical treatments, or improving the nutrient profile of the crop. And ang examples sa non-food crops is includes siya sa production of pharmaceutical agents, biofuels, and other industrially useful goods. So that's all for my part.
So, good morning, everyone. I will be your second presenter, and I am Vanessa Bramika Bucos. And before I start, am I audible, Ra?
Yes, Day.
Sige. Okay, so going back, um, Fabi previously discussed that about genetically modified crops. So, genetically modified crops, this is the crops that, oh, sorry. Okay, first, the genetically modified crops that we know right now, such as, the banana, doesn't really look like that. They actually look like this, like this. They are not as big as the banana that we know today, and they are primarily small, and they have bigger seeds than smaller only portion that we can eat. And also, genetically modified crops has been gone for more than years, or for the years that we don't even know, way back.
Yes,
And okay. And for now in our century, which is the 21st century, the genetically modified crop we are now is has been more advanced. We can be more specific on what we want. Do we want this crop to be more modifiedly beneficial, more vitamins, more willing to the weather, and such as that? Or it could also be if we want it to produce two times than it is usually is. So that is genetically modified crops. Now on to my topic. So genetically modified food. So from genetically modified crops with all the vegetation, and we also have genetically modified animals, the previously discussed portion of FAB. So if all of this, as we cook this and we put it into our table, this is what we come up genetically modified food. This is the food, this is the meat that has GM. I yes,
ano, wala nakita sa share screen ni mo, Day.
I black tanan.
O, Day.
Ay wait lang.
Wala jud ay nakita.
Wait lang. Pasinaklag ra ko. Kana, day?
Oo na na.
Ay, sige. So, mabalik lang sa ako. Okay. So, good morning, everyone. So, I am your second presenter again. I am Vanessa Brimika Lucas. And before I start off with my presentation, let's previously discussed the parts with is the genetically modified crops. Again, this is the crops that we enhance or we play with a little bit of science and technology. So they are the engineered crops. The crops that we know today, such as the bananas, they don't really look like that. They are not as big as that, and they are smaller compared to its size or half its size. And then they have bigger seeds and smaller portion that we can eat, and such as many other vegetation, such as the watermelon or the seedless grapes. If you have noticed, why do we have seedless? Are they naturally like that? They are actually not like that. They used to have bigger portion of seed and only smaller portion that we can eat. And many or majority actually of the naturally um, vegetation that we have here on earth are more prone to disease or such as to not really yielding to the weather. And we also have genetically modified animals. This is the animals that we play again with science and technology. We modified them so that they can reproduce a tons of more, such as salmon actually. That is not just naturally occurring animals. I mean, that is from nature, but we just enhance them so that their production will be 2 times or even 5 times. For us, that there will be a lot of goods or a lot of vegetables that we can sell, a lot of meats that we can sell, and therefore a lot of people can eat, and so as poverty. Now, such as okay, so that's that. So if we come up with all of that, the crops, genetically modified crops and animals, and we cook it, now we are into our topic, which is genetically modified food. So the food could be vegetation or meat. And why do we do this? Okay, so let's get to know more. So first bullet is says there, foods produced from using GM organisms are often referred to as GM foods. So this is just what I previously discussed. And two bullet, we have your GM foods are developed and marketed because there is some perceived advantage either to the producer or consumer of this food. So two highlighted name here. So the producer, this is our farmers or our local farmers. What could be their advantages? So the scientists, what they want is to really, what's this? To motivate the farmers to use GM foods or GM crops actually. No, GM crops. Why? Because GM crops has been modified. For example, we have, rice field or rice. When we sow rice, it is very tactile. Because what is it in the Philippines? In the Philippines, it is such a hot weather. Or in the, what's this? In the summer, it is more hot, 5 times hotter. Then we have El Nino. And to grow plants, it shouldn't be too much hot, too much water, or else the plants will die. So this is where the rice field comes in. So what did our scientists do? So the scientists sought to solve this problem. They produce or come up with a genetically modified crops, which is which is the golden rice. If you are familiar with that, so the golden rice that the farmers are sowing, this type of rice is actually more immune, or they can actually survive drought and also even weather such as now if there are heavy rainfalls. So and by here, if the farmer doesn't need to sow more or to labor more, which means less hard work for them, and if they don't have to buy pesticide with their own money, which means they also gasto less. So if this happen, what happens to the market? Of course, there will be more yielding of of price to the market. So inflammation will be solved because there are abundancy in stock. If there are abundancy in stock, what happened to the economic? Of course, the prices of rice will go down. So the consumer is also benefited, which they are also benefited because now they can buy rice with a lesser price. And not just that, scientists can also play godlike because if for example, if this economy, okay, they are poverty and they are in poverty, and a lot of people has been suffering in terms of protein. So uh, um, the demigod, such as our scientists, can play like, okay, let's enhance it and add more proteins and other even vitamins if we can do so. So they do that and not and they do that. So what happened to the consumer? Lesser price to the rice plus healthy benefits in terms of vitamins. So that is number two. So now number three bullet. Um, it says there, this is meant to translate into a product with a lower price, just like what I say. It lessen no, there are abundancy of stock price, which mean information will be gone, and by that, what happened? The price will be lower, and the greater the benefit, with both for the producer and consumer. They pay less, they they pay less money, and for that also they have more vitamins in terms to keep happy. So that is that. Okay. So that is number three bullet. So let's continue. Okay, so number four bullet. Wait. Initially, GM seeds developers wanted their products to be accepted by the producers and have concentrated on innovations that bring direct benefit to farmers and the food industry generally. So, who is this GM seed developers? Of course, this is again the scientists. Why they are more, encouraging or more on their talking to the farmers or to our local farmers, because initially when people think with the word GM food or GM crop or GM animals, then the word science could be associated with that. And sometimes when we heard about that, scientific, the word itself, it kind of adds, it kind of come out to us as it is a bit cold, it is a bit terrifying. And then with the other product, such as the labeling of the economy, they will say, oh, natural food, free, what is this, gluten free, such as that, blah blah blah. So people tend to go more to what is called natural. But the thing is, the two-thirds of our food is not really natural. They are being modified, or as we say, GM modified food. And it doesn't mean because it's all natural, it hadn't been touched by science and technology, it is more beneficial or it is more healthy. In fact, just like I said, science could play, or our scientists could play a demigod like, and they can add nutritional facts that they want to. So, doesn't mean that natural food that hasn't been touched again with us is more beneficial. So, this is where it comes that the scientists or the GMC developers are encouraging slowly by slowly, explaining our local farmers of the process of how they come up with this seed, and then they tell them about their benefit and how is this going to benefit themselves, their family, the society, the consumer, and as a whole, the country, or even the earth. So that is bullet number four, and now into our very last bullet. One of the objectives for developing plants based on GM organisms is to improve crop production. The GM crops currently on the market are mainly aimed at an increased level of crop production through the introduction of resistance against plant disease caused by the insects or viruses, or through increased tolerance towards herbicides. Okay, so in this last bullet, the main point why the GMs and developers are encouraging the farmers is to protect lives, crop protection actually, because in crop again and seeding, no, no, in sowing crops or vegetation, it is very hard. They are very fragile, not just to the weather but to their environment and of course nature versus nature. There are weeds, and these weeds they grow alongside with your good crop, which is, for example, like your tomato. Okay, that is specifically what you just want to grow. But this harmful other nature also grow, which is the weeds, and they can be very, you know, very bad to your crops because they destroy them. So what do the farmers do to them? So of course they use herbicides, which is this is actually a pesticide that is toxic. And with this actually herbicide, this is designed specifically to kill the weeds only, not your main crop. But the thing is, there is toxin, so of course your crop will, will be not just a little bit what it can be also affected. So the scientists sees this part and sees this problem because it's very toxic if a person digests this. So what they do a little bit of their magic and they add some GNE or improve the GNE of a crop or the golden rice so that the golden rice or your tomato or any vegetation will have a DNA that can help them protect from these harmful toxic. So they don't just um, survive in terms of weather, but they also survive in terms of toxins and many more. So I just wanna add up. We are actually done. So genetically modified food are done to the scientists so that they can solve three problems. Number one is to the farmers so that they will have less labor and less manual money for their production, such as like buying pesticides or others. And the number two is for the consumer to have lesser. Okay, so that also the consumer can buy lesser the prices for their food, and by that the under marginalized group can afford food, and that a food that is beneficial, that has vitamins to them, and that has no toxins. And the number three is to solve, of course, um, starvation, and also that because if we don't have food or we don't have enough production on the market, what happens is that the money goes up and the poor cannot buy or cannot afford, so mostly they cannot eat, and by that they will die. So that is just what is happening. Okay, so now let's go because everything that we do as human is like a double-edged sword. It has a good side and it has the bad side because no matter how genuine we are or what no matter how good our intention that we do, there's still that goes, opposite of what we intentionally want. And this is the disadvantages or the bad effects of what we're doing. So now let's move on to social concerns. So number one, we have health risks. Number two, environment. Number three, labeling GM food. Number four, economical issues. But let's first start with health risks. So health risks lead to the animal. So number one bullet, many scientific data indicate that animals fed by GM crops have been harmed. AG rats exposed to GM potatoes and soya had abnormal young sperm. So any here, so there has been research conducted by some scientists, and it has been going like many years, and then they have this test subject which is the rats, and they only feed them with soya, or also potatoes. So potatoes and soya, this is also an example of a GM um, crops. So they feed them over the years with only of these two food, and they have observed and they have come to conclusion that these young rats they have abnormality of their sperm. Because if you are in the age of, that is young, or okay, that is in your teens or young, usually the sperm in here is very active or um, energetic. So the sperm, if we go onto a microscope, you can actually see or can spot easily what is a healthy sperm, which is they move very fast. But when they look into the microscope into this, it has been moving quite abnormally. It has been so fast, very fast, not normal, or some of the sperm was moving slow. So it was too much and it was too low. So it was so abnormal. Because when this happened, of course the reproduction will also be affected. If so ever there will be a miracle that this sperm that did, mate or did mate with some of the eggs of the female, and then this produce a rat or a baby rat of the new generation, that rat specifically will also have a risk factor of its own DNA. It could be, there will be abnormality or that rat could die easily. Or also, this abnormal young sperm will not also mate. So in here, okay, we're just gonna pause. Okay, number two, what's this? Number two, bullet. So when we are here now, and cow, goats, buffalo, pigs, and other livestock grazing on BT maize and certain biotic corn. So all of okay, BT maize and biotic corn. This is the corn that is GM crops, genetically modified crops to withhold toxin or better. So as you can see in the picture, we have a healthy corn, and we have a corn that has been damaged. So with the help of engineering and science and technology, this corn has been now in our existence. So now as we continue showed complication including early delivery, abortion, infertility, and many more. Right. So now the scientists also have another subjects in terms of corn, and also the local farmer also. So they have been, feeding this livestock only with this corn, and they have seen throughout the years the abnormality of the production of their livestock. It has been very low because there has been a lot of abortion. If mo anak man gani, it was early delivery. So the so the child that has been born has died. Okay. So by that, farmers or the local farmers has a lot of issue because they don't their profit as they are not gaining profit. So as the livestock that they put in the market has been very low. So in this too, we can see the health risk factors of these animals in terms of these crops that we have modified. It has been running off with their production. So it is not just bad to the market, stock market, or our our buying of with this food, and also with this meat. It is just imagine if we are these animals, and these GM crops also does to us, to our sperm, to our in term of delivery, to our so to in term of our delivery. So what will happen? So of course it gonna cause us extinction of the humans. So what is it in here? Yes, in that indeed GM food gave us a great benefits of producing crops tenfold, but to us human, it is making our population or number lesser. Yes, indeed, it gives us vitamins and all sorts of proteins and many more. But in terms of our health, it is also damaging our health, not just the underlying health, but to our health in terms of production. But then again, nature DNA, in the nature we have animals, we have plants, and then our DNA as human is quite different. our DNA as human is more superior. But we do have a linkage to this nature. So this is just that we can say that what happening to the animals as their side effects to the GM food could not be also our side effects, or because of this a little of linkage, there will be a little of probability that this can also happen to us, and we should tend to look further for this. So what happened now? So the FDA, or the Health Work Organization, has now conducted a law that before the scientists or these businesses, before they give off their products to the market, they are going to they are first should go to an underlying studies research if indeed this product or meat will do more harm to us or more benefit. So that is what they do, and after that, if they pass, then they will have GMO approved to them. So let's now talk what is the health risk to us humans. So in the first bullet, many companies do not accept direct link between GMF consumption and human health problems. Why? Let's read the second bullet. AG, because of foodborne diseases such as soya allergies have increased over the years in UK and USA. So, okay, let's highlight soya. Okay, soya actually it begins naturally as just a beans. But the thing in here, why it wasn't demanded yet, because the proteins in here was low. So now the scientists saw this. Oh, how about this? Okay, then they rendered the Brazilian nuts. Actually, Brazilian nuts is actually known for its high protein. So they want to infuse this trait of Brazilian nuts into the soya. So they get some DNA specifically for the high protein of the Brazilian nut, and they infuse it to the DNA of soya. Because they were having in their mind, just think of it, soya already have, quite a good characteristic of its own. But if we infuse more to make it more of a high protein, so of course the value of soya will go up and it will be demand. So they did indeed that, and they successfully did that, and they put it in the market, and the people was very onto that. They were buying that, and the stock market of soya skyrocketed. And because of this, so of course the businesses was good. They were happy, but they were happy for only quite a few, for quite few years, because now they were issue. Because the people that has allergy to the Brazilian nuts has now have an allergy to the soya. Before they don't have, but now they do. Why? Because the DNA that was in the Brazilian nuts was now in the soya. And then other issue was also found out that people was having allergy, even though they don't have the both allergies to the Brazilian nuts, now they have allergy, newfound allergy. So it increased over the years, and now UK and USA has been in top bar of having this issue. Because as we know, soya can be done to a lot of things. We can make sushi with it, we can make milk with it, we can make soy sauce with this. So that is that. So there are also other GM products actually that is doing this disease such as allergies, and also even to the animals. If makabantay ka, some people are having allergies to a specific meat because of this, because of our manipulation. So now let's go to the very, very last bullet. We have many villagers and cotton handlers have developed skin allergies in India. So in India, there are actually a very um, mom. So there is actually a very big field for this. And then the people usually doesn't really come in with a long sleeve. They just come in with their usual, because they're just gonna pick up the cotton balls. So as they were picking up the cotton balls, the a cotton balls that is that is soft, that is just silky, that doesn't seem to be so harmful, now has been causing things to them. they have found out that the people or their workers has been having this quite little or cluster of bombs, and it's very cheap. So so now the business owner having issues on this because imagine if they sell this to the market, the people using cotton, we mostly use cotton for our skincare. So there will be a lot of losses. So a lot of there will be a lot of losses. And so this is why some companies are now being so skeptical and using GM into their production and infusing um, nature, infusing their livestock, because it might give them benefit, or in the long run, it might give them more or a negative effect. So for this, so everything that we discussed, I think that will be all actually. Okay, so thank you all, and now I'll hand you to the next reporter. And again, I am Vanessa Vermica Bucos. Thank you so much for listening. Excuse me, Jacqueline. You can start now. Malamido ha.
Ay, pwede ikatang ipa-share screen ako palihog day.
Ah, sige,
Ang
i-share lang sa GC na to, day. Kani Jackie, sakto rin Jackie.
yes, kana day, thank you. Okay, good morning everyone. So, continuation na siya sa kang Vanessa. So, the environmental risk. Uh, first, first we have genes escaping and spreading. Genetically modified organisms or the GMOs have the potential for their modified genes to escape and mix with other members of the same species or even different species. Number two is competition and breeding with wild species. GM crops can crossbreed with wild species, potentially leading to the transfer of modified genes to this wild population. So this can threaten biodiversity by altering the genetic makeup of wild species. Um, next, palihugday. Number three is lack of environmental stress response. Some um, some GM crops may not possess sensors to adapt to environmental changes such as changes in climate or pests. Famine in Ireland, where a single strain of potato susceptible to a specific disease resulting in widespread production of failure. Number four is unintended harm to other species. The introduction of GMOs can have unintended consequences for other species. So, for example, if a genetically modified crop produces a toxin to a target pest, it may also harm beneficial or other organisms that interact with in the ecosystem, disrupting natural balance and potentially affecting biodiversity. Palagkog next day. Wala nakita. Next is the GM labeling. So, proper labeling, packaging, or labeling of genetically modified food products. It should prominently display the term GM to indicate that the product contains genetically modified organism. So why is it necessary to label GM food? So it is important to ensure that consumers have the right to make informed choices about the food they purchase and consume. It also allows individuals to decide whether they want to support or avoid the GM products based on their personal preferences or beliefs. Next is the economical issues. Risk of patent enforcement. This refers to the potential issue of farming being legally obligated to rely on large engineering companies such as Monsanto, Monsanto for specific strain of crops when their crops get pollinated in the context of genetically modified crops. If a, if a farmer's non-GM crops get pollinated by GM crops, there is a risk that the farmer may be required to purchase patented GM seed from the company that owns the patent. This can limit the farmer's choices and increase their dependence on these companies. Number two is um, patenting new plants varieties. This refers to the practice of granting patents for new plants varieties, including GM crops. So when the company patents a new plants variety, they gain inclusive rights to produce and sell seeds of that variety. As a result, the price of this um, seed can be significantly higher than traditional seeds. This can create affordability issues for small farmers who may not be able to afford the high prices of GM seeds. Please go next day. The GMO and ethical issues. So genetic modified of organisms can have unpredictable result when such organisms are introduced into the ecosystem. So the modern modified or the usage of living organisms as food and medicine sources. So for example, has also created problems with patents granted for ethical development practices. There is growing anger that companies are using to modified organisms and of the genetic material. Identified allowing farmers and indigenous people of a specific region or country. So the biopiracy is the term used to refer the authorization from the country and people concerned with a compensatory payment. Nations are rich financially, world is rich in biodiversity and traditional knowledge related to bioresources. This has There has been growing realization of the injustice, inadequate compensation and benefit sharing between developed and developing countries. So therefore, some nations are developing laws to prevent such unauthorized exploration of the bioresources and traditional knowledge. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Group 7. Now we're going to hand the next now we're going to hand the next reporter.